How did they know that Hamza al-Khatib, the little boy, was tortured and killed, and his body was thrown in front of his house of his parents? The people found out through Facebook, through media, and this has sparked a big fire. This is the real identity of ISIS, unfortunately. They are khuwana, they are treacherous people, yani. They are like a dagger in the back of this Muslim Ummah, unfortunately. Iran bombed the city of Aleppo, which was besieged, with nothing than less of 5,000 rockets. The big topic of Iran's Shia Crescent project, which involves Syria also. This is what they have used, the green buses, to remove Sunni Muslims and to move in Shia. Life is not a bubble, man. It's not like a fantasy world. Caliphate, yeah, wow, Allahu Akbar, we all want that. But it's not easy as that.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters, and welcome to another early episode of the Stand for Palestine podcast. We are still in our early days, but alhamdulillah, the response to the first couple of episodes has been very, very warm, very humbling, alhamdulillah, and we are glad to be having a wonderful conversation today. I think it will be absolutely amazing. We've been looking forward to it for some time, and it is the start of, inshallah, great things for this podcast, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. A reminder before we get started in earnest and introduce our esteemed guest to subscribe to the Stand for Palestine podcast on YouTube, to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, and to look out for the little clips that will come out. Make sure you share them, make sure you interact, make sure you comment, like, subscribe, do all the funky things that a person has to do. Support us in our work, inshallah. We are doing some important work to really unentangle the politics of the Ummah, and to discuss the path to revival and victory bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Now, it gives me great pleasure to welcome a very esteemed guest to today's podcast. This is the first time we are now having an external guest from outside of our core team. We are having great discussions within the team, and we've got a large team of volunteers, alhamdulillah. But really now the time has come to foray out, and it gives us great pleasure to be talking to a really wonderful brother who we've been in touch with for some time, whose work we have followed. And that is none other than Brother Abdussamed Dagul. And I'll make sure I get him to correct the pronunciation in a second, in case I've gotten it wrong. He's of Turkish-German background, Turkish origin, who left everything, mashallah, in the year 2014 to do hijra to Syria. For over a decade, he's lived and reported from the heart of the Syrian Revolution. So he is a journalist, and we'll find out a lot more about his work. From the siege of Aleppo to the battles against Assad, ISIS, and Russian-backed forces, our brother Abdussamed shares a first-hand account today of his struggle, the sacrifices, and the moments of despair that turn into moments of hope. We'll talk about the dark days of the difficult times of the revolution in Idlib and Aleppo, and of course the road to victory and the great liberation of Syria that we saw. My dear brother Abdussamed, it gives me great pleasure to say assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Stand for Palestine podcast.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan, and thank you for having me. And inshallah, we will try our best to explain the Syrian Revolution, inshallah.
Inshallah. And what we sort of said to our audience today is that it really is an insider story. I think the perspective that you got is very, very unique. It will begin to answer a lot of the questions that people have, and we very, very much look forward to unpacking that with you. Let's tell us about yourself, dear brother Abdussamed. Tell us about who you are, how you got to Syria. Tell us a little bit about your background as a Turkish origin German, I guess, who ended up in Bilad al-Sham.
Yes, alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khairan, again, first and foremost, for having me. And I'm, like you said, I'm from Turkish origin, as there are many in Germany, in Turkish origin, who are living in Germany. I was born and raised in Germany. I've gone to school in Germany. Everything in my life that I went through in my teenage years and in my childhood, I've done in Germany. So it was, of course, a very comfortable life and a very luxurious life in comparison to the Muslim Ummah in general in the Islamic lands, and especially in the Middle East, and especially in the war-torn countries, be it Afghanistan, be it Iraq, be it Syria, be it wherever. And alhamdulillah, it was a big privilege for us to be able to live like that and to be raised like that. And
which city in Germany in particular were you living in, Akhi?
I'm actually from a smaller city which is called Hanau, which is very close to Frankfurt. Frankfurt is a big city in Germany, and is actually, I think, the highest criminal rate in Germany. And it's unfortunately mostly probably by Muslim background youth who are misguided. And of course, this was also a big part of my teenage years, and actually in Hanau in 2020 there was a big an attack by a Nazi terror member guy. He've killed like 11 foreigners who are living in the city. It went viral on news. It was actually my city, and most of the people who were the victims of this attack I knew and I've grown up with. And so alhamdulillah, so just to the people who said you have risked your life and went to Syria and you're gonna die, death comes to you wherever you are, even if you are in your comfortable bed in the highest mountains and castles in the world. Allah will give you your death whenever it's written for you. So you rather decide for a honorable life and an honorable way, and die in an honorable way, inshallah. May Allah allow us to live and die in an honorable way. So yeah, alhamdulillah, I was like I said.
Were you affected by any of that gang violence? Were you practicing as a young Muslim? Were you into your deen, or was there something that caused you to sort of wake up like many of us do?
So we grew up in a practicing family, especially my mother, may Allah reward her and preserve her. She was always very involved in the masjid, in the Turkish Islamic community. We grew up, and I remember when I was 6 or 7 years old, she used to force me and my sister. Force means, as a child, you don't understand what's right and wrong, because I'm a father now also, and I understand these things. So just for those critique-loving people, and a lot that they say now, these guys were forced to practice Islam. But as a young child, you want to play instead of going to the masjid on the weekends when you have free time off school. But alhamdulillah, today I'm grateful for my mother forcing us to the masjid on the weekends in Germany. So alhamdulillah, we've grown up in an Islamic community, in the Turkish Islamic community. We've learned to read the Quran in very early stages of our lives, alhamdulillah. And we were quite into the Islamic community until I was like maybe 13, 14. This is when my family unfortunately lost control over me, as many of the youngsters in Europe or in the West, where the family loses control over the child and the friendship or the circle, and the circle of devil and shaitan, unfortunately, because the system is established that way, and that the child has now its own priorities, it has its own freedom. Now it can decide what to do, and unfortunately, as the years go on, it becomes, every generation that comes, it becomes even worse and more difficult to control, unfortunately, and preserve and protect from the evil. So alhamdulillah, when I was in that age, like 13, 14 maybe, like I said, and I've drifted away from a practicing Islamic life, unfortunately, and I had I don't want to call it gang violence, but it was quite full of actions, my life, I think, and I've always lived very fast, if you can call it. So my friends were always older than me, so I was always experiencing stuff that none of my people, my age people, and the people who were my age were experiencing. So it was very fast. Alhamdulillah, I'm glad it was fast. I went through those stages, which today also made me to the man that I am. Maybe the the things that I've maybe witnessed and seen and went through in those years maybe prepared me for these years today that were quite harsh in the recent years when the war was full on. Alhamdulillah, maybe Allah, prepared me نفسيا يعني my soul and my my mental situation or strength to deal with these kind of situations. So Alhamdulillah, towards when I was 19, I think 18, 19, or like late 19, early 20, let's say, I knew now, Islam is the only solution for happiness, for inner peace, because I had everything that a teenager and a youngster could ask for. I had money, I had my own car, I had everything what a youngster asks for to be happy, as the world system claims. Yani. Yes.
What were you doing? What were you doing in terms of your career? What were you going to university? Were you running a business at that age? What was your future looking like at that time in Germany itself?
That was one good thing, I think, that always kept me kind of like between evil and good, was that because my parents were always really forcing me onto the career thing and studying thing. And so out of 10 of my friends, my best friends, my teenage friends, maybe I am the only one, I think, that has some kind of degree in something. Alhamdulillah. So I was always after that. I don't know if you know, but I think you must know, because Asian families are the same thing.
Of course,
you must become doctor, you must become this, my son, you must study university. So Turkish families are just the same. They, unfortunately, they are like, even most of the families, they put more value in that you study university than you become a practicing Muslim. Easy. And this is how I came into, or I got into my media studies. I've studied media in Germany, and towards the last year of my studies, which was like when I was late, just about to become 20. This was like the last year I really started feeling now, ضيقة صدر. My chest was full of yes. I didn't feel happy in my life. I knew I have to change the way how I live. And I was, for 1 year, I remember I was for 1 year making dua to Allah to give me righteous friends, because I knew I had to get out of this. I had to get out of this circle. Even I had like what? Yes.
If you don't mind me asking, what relative to the Syrian Revolution, what year is this? Has the revolution started yet, or are you in touch with the affairs of the Ummah?
This is yes. This why, and this why was also one reason, because I'm seeing what's going on in the Muslim Ummah, and you are living a life of nonsense. What are you busy with? What are you busy with? This was like always. I always used to question myself. I'm still questioning always myself. I think it's a very good way to fix yourself. Self-critique is very important. Also to stay humble and not think so high of yourself, and then Allah takes you down. So at that point, I was like, I was even like trying to pray. Like inside the week, I was trying to pray, and then the weekends was coming, and prayer was not anymore the first thing that comes in life, unfortunately. And on Monday, I was coming back and doing tawbah and istighfar and thinking, man, what I'm doing. So this was like that time I was really making dua to Allah to give me righteous friends. So alhamdulillah, also we had a big sheikh in our city who was coming once a week, who was also a student of Sheikh al-Albani, rahimahullah. So he was inviting me to the durus, to the lectures of the sheikh, and this is how it started. This when actually also when I went to the first dars, for the first lecture of the sheikh, it was as like Allah prepared this sheikh to give this lecture just to answer my questions. Subhanallah, there was maybe 100 people in the lecture in the room, but it was as Allah prepared this sheikh just to speak to me and to for his words to hit my heart. Subhanallah, after the dars, I say to the brothers, I say, look, brother, man, this is my number, please, just message me every day. every day message me, when you're not free, when we don't have no work, let's just go out together, bro. Because if you don't call me, I will go to, to the bad circle, to my bad friends again. Let's just do this. So alhamdulillah, that's how it started. And mashallah, the brothers were very active in the da'wah scene, and they were also working in the charity sector. So they were already at that time. What they were doing, they had really like little smart ideas, and this showed their sidq, their right intention. Showed they didn't had no means to help their brothers and sisters in Syria. So what they were doing is they were asking for the Muslim community to give everything that they don't use, and they just have in what's it called we have like basement in Germany. We have basements.
Yes, I understand.
They are like rooms that you don't use, and they're just like a little storage room. And most of us have a lot of things there that we didn't want to throw out or throw away, but they are still usable. But so what they were doing is they were collecting all these things, and then they were going on the weekends to the bazaar. I don't know what you call it, you have little stands, and everyone's selling like secondhand stuff and all that stuff.
Market
so
sale.
They were going there, they were selling all this stuff, and the money that they were collecting there from all these sales, they were sending either to Syria, or either they were buying ambulances and sending the ambulances to Syria. So alhamdulillah,
nice.
when we got I got into this friend this community of brothers, alhamdulillah, I just went from that life directly into this life. And it was full of action, it was full of dawah classes. Also, the brothers were going at that time to the UK to learn from Abdurrahim Green, the IRA dawah project. They were coming back to us. They were teaching us, the way how to give dawah to Christians, to Jews, to Muslims, to non-practicing Muslims. It was alhamdulillah very active at that time. So we got into the Syrian Revolution, to follow the Syrian Revolution that way.
Yes.
And as every Muslim, especially when you're young and don't have much to lose, didn't establish a career yet, you don't have a wife, you don't have children, you don't have much to lose. You just have to take that one step to towards sacrificing these things. And also there are many sayings, especially one saying by Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, is that I don't know how it's one by one, but in the meaning of for someone who has a harsh jahiliyyah, that for him the only way to the best way for him to erase his sins is jihad fi sabilillah. So this was a big push for me. This was I think I say to myself, I think this is the only way for me to get away with all these sins in front of Allah Azza wa Jal. We got into the thing of Syria, and of course, as we all, I'm sure you also, as we all have watched those painful videos of our sisters being taken on checkpoints, not knowing what their faith will be, of our brothers who were being buried alive while they were saying La ilaha illallah, and they were saying say La ilaha illa Bashar, and he was still insistent to say La ilaha illallah, and he got buried alive. And all these videos that we all watched, millions of us have watched these videos. They've moved me, they've moved me, and I felt like I was doing the da'wah thing, I was doing the charity thing, but I felt like I need to do more, man. This is not how I'm going to change the situation of this ummah, and I always, even in my jahiliyyah and even in my childhood, I don't know why, but I always thought that I'm special. I'm not just a normal guy. Allah has created me for a special cause, that I have to do more always than other people, that I have to, even when I was a young child, I wanted to be special forces in the Turkish army, So I was always up for sacrifice, I was always up for sacrifice. So alhamdulillah, I got in touch with brothers in Syria, and we were talking and getting on to each other, and when they found out that I'm a media guy, they were like, "So we need media here. We are really weak in reaching our voice out to the world. You can speak multiple languages. You could help us with this. And once I went to Syria, we drove ambulances. Actually, we were a convoy of ambulances. It was like 4 ambulances. We drove the whole way. It was an amazing journey on the path of Allah Azza wa Jal. I remember how we were making the adhan on the big ferry ship, and people were looking at us and were surprised, like, what are we doing? What are these guys doing? Why are they screaming on the top of the ship? And Alhamdulillah, it was an amazing trip. And on that trip, I realized this is it, man. This is the sacrifice. This is the step I have to do to find happiness and the next step in my life. This is how we learn, yani, and this is how it should be. I think is that yourself, that you see tomorrow needs to be better than yesterday. And I thought, like, I've come good along now. Since 1 year I'm practicing. Well, this is the next step you need to take to come closer to Allah, to raise your own levels, inshallah, in akhirah and with Allah. And alhamdulillah, when we came to the trip, the first trip of the ambulance, when we reached like the al-Hawa border crossing, which is like between Turkey and Syria in the north of Idlib. When I came there, when I met these amazing people, the Syrian people, who were like, the guy had just left the front line and came to Turkey to get some stuff done in Turkey, in the city. And we've met him, and we've got known to him, and I've realized how close these people are to Allah, how their connection is with Allah. And I thought, like, man, I need to have this connection also with Allah. Why do they have it and I can't have it? And this was, I think, the turning point, yani, for me, where I said, you know what, man, this is it, man. I'm going back to Germany. I'm collecting my money, collecting my stuff, selling all what I have, and that's it. I'm coming. You need me as media guy. That's it, bro. That's my excuse to be here, and I need to be here. And at that time, we have believed anyway that it was fard upon us all. And I don't want to get into fiqh, because I'm not a student of knowledge, but we know the difference between fard al-kifaya and fard al-ayn. And up until this moment that I'm speaking to you, I don't have any doubts that jihad fi sabilillah is fard al-ayn upon every Muslim man that is able to do so, because all Muslim lands are invaded. All our sisters are still in prison, being raped maybe multiple times a day. And these sisters are our honor. These children who are starving to death in Gaza, they are our children as much as our own children from our wives are sitting at home in their comfortable lives. As much as they are our children, those children are our children also. And the Prophet ﷺ said, the Ummah is as a body. If one organ feels the pain, the rest of the body feels the pain. If we don't feel the pain today of our brothers in Gaza, our brothers in Myanmar, in East Turkestan, wherever they might be oppressed, then we should really doubt ourselves, our imams, and ask ourselves, am I right? Am I truthful with Allah?
So what was the year in which you actually moved to Syria then?
It was 2014. It was like in May, I think, where I made my trip to Syria. I've reached Syria, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. And you went via Turkey?
Yes, of course, via Turkey. That was the only way, I think, at that moment.
Okay.
And the easiest way also. Alhamdulillah.
Describe for us the context of the revolution at that point. So 2014, this is now almost 3 years into the revolution. The jihad is well and truly on. I mean, factions are everywhere, fighting. Tell us about the lay of the land in terms of the fight against Bashar. How would you describe it, succinctly?
I mean, at that time, when I came, it just the fitna between ISIS and the revolutionary factions had broken out. This was just very new, when ISIS was asking them to join. to join the ranks of ISIS, and the revolutionary factions, the Islamic factions, were saying that we can't do that. And this was when like the Islamic factions had pulled out just newly from the Iraqi border, from the north of Syria, from the oil fields of Deir ez-Zor up until to Hasaka, up until to Raqqa, up until to like the parts, the northern parts of Aleppo, you know, and it was a big fitna. It was a big fitna at that time. You know,
and Muslims,
what's going on?
Muslims from different factions who at that point didn't realize ISIS was what it ended up being. They were joining, weren't they? They would leave their factions and they would join ISIS. Is that right? Is that impression correct?
Yes, of course, thousands. Unfortunately, thousands, because they were claiming that they are the Ta'ifat al-Mansura. They are the only group that really and righteously are fighting for the Sharia, fighting for the Islamic cause, and this is how they tricked thousands of youngsters into their ranks, unfortunately. And we have seen after what they have done. Yani they have left them on the battlefields. The leaders have run with millions of dollars, stole them the amwal of the Ummah, unfortunately, and left thousands of sisters also in today. They are still in the camps of PKK, of al-Hawa and al-Roj, and while their leaders were being assassinated in Idlib, they were living in Idlib. While they've left behind thousands of sisters and children in Baghouz, in Hasaka, in Hijin, in Deir ez-Zor, unfortunately.
Yeah, subhanallah. Yeah, so this is the point at which you come, and tell us about your first impressions on the ground. Like, what did you find during this time? Was it did you sort of think, what have I come into? I wanted to come and fight to topple the regime, but here I am, caught within this fitna between the Muslims. Like, what was your first? And I'm not saying that's how you necessarily felt, but what was your first impression coming into this very murky situation at the time?
I mean, alhamdulillah, I was happy that or I was content that I was not, inshallah, gonna spill any Muslim blood, because I was a journalist anyway. So I came, with the intention of, like reporting. So I was always away from. I was always in the second row, let's say, not in the first row. The first row was battles, fights. It had to happen, and people have fought each other, even if both sides were Muslim at that time, like the factions, unfortunately.
Yes.
But alhamdulillah, because I was in the second row, I was like the media guy, I always had that chance to say like, okay, man, this is too much for me. Let's just chill in the office. Let's not go out of the office for a few weeks until the situation calms down, So alhamdulillah, but when I came in a time, it was messy. It was very messy. And to be honest with you, the first 6 months, I think 6 to 8 months, and this everyone will say you this. Every muhajir who has done hijra to Syria will tell you the same thing. The first 6 to 8 months is a big trial, because you come from the comfort of the West.
Subhanallah.
Where you turn on the hot tap and hot water comes down. That even those small things that we take for granted today in the West, you turn on the hot tap, hot water comes, bro. You have a hot shower. This was not the case. It was not hot water. You'll be lucky that you have water even in the water tank of the house, because
which part of Syria were you in at this time when you came for the first few months? Where were you staying?
I was in the mountains. I was in Jabal Turkman, it's called. The mountains of the Turkman. It's like in northern Latakia. Is right on the Turkish border. Is near to Kasab and near to the sea. When I came new, I was in those areas, and those areas they were worse, bro. Like when after 3 months or so, we have traveled to Aleppo first time, and I saw brothers are living in villas, and they are still receiving electricity from the regime. I was like, man, you lot live in luxury here, man. We are like sleeping in the mountains, barely having electricity, having like one LED stripe that we have connected to the car battery. living on
Subhanallah.
little flashlights, going, having to go to toilet and in the kitchen on flashlights,
Allahu Akbar.
while
Yeah.
you lot living here in villas and with swimming pool and AC and electricity, man. Like, how is that fair,
Yeah.
So, alhamdulillah, when I came, it was a big trial for me. It was a big trial because now Allah wanted to see if you're really ready to sacrifice.
Subhanallah.
Now Allah wanted to see, okay, you have said it, you have taken the first step. Now let me see how much thabat, how steadfast you are really in this,
And so, what did you do for the first sort of half a year to a year while being there? Did you get started with your journalism work straight away? Was that, or you were just sort of seeing where you would fit in? What was your contribution?
Alhamdulillah, as soon as I've come, I've made contact with brothers. They were kind of involved in media. They were not really involved in media, but they knew the importance of media, let's say, because not every Muslim understands the importance of media. Not every Muslim understands that media is weapon. Like Sheikh Abu Qatada Palestini says that media is half of jihad. Because today, the enemy of Islam is fighting us and Islam with media. They are trying to paint a bad picture upon the Mujahideen, upon the Muslims, upon the ones who are struggling, striving against oppression, invasion, and they succeed, unfortunately, because we Muslims are driven by media, and media is in their control, no doubt. We are very weak. Even social media, you post up one picture and they can just remove it as much as they wish. So even we as Muslims, we don't even have our own social media platform that is run by us, that is administrated by us, unfortunately. So even when we use this tool, we have to use it their ways, and we have to use it according to their rules. So we are very restricted in that, unfortunately. So when I came, like I said, I met these brothers who understood the importance of media. As soon as I came, alhamdulillah, I started giving training courses about how to use, like, the basics, how to use a camera, how to use a camera, how to install the microphone on the camera, how important it is that you can actually hear and understand what's being talked while you record. Like the basics of media, I was given to many brothers, and even they were coming from big parts of Syria to the area where we were in, just to get this basic course of the media utility.
So you're sort of training other people to be able to tell the story of the revolution, of the fight against Assad, in essence.
Yes, exactly.
And what was the impact of that? Like, how did that sort of, in your view, how did that help? I suppose, what impact did you see it have in terms of getting the news out, in terms of getting the sights and the sounds and the reality of what was happening on the ground?
I mean, I really think that the Syrian Revolution, a big reason why it succeeded is media, because it was able to expose the crimes of the Assad regime. If it was not able to expose the crimes of the Assad regime, maybe the people or the whole world would have said, like, why are you raising against the ruler that was all right with you? Yeah,
incredible. You make an interesting point. We say Gaza is the first live stream genocide. I really think Syria was the first live stream revolution. Everything happened in real time. Tell us what you sort of feel about that.
Yes, of course. Everything was, even the first demonstrations by the Syrians in Syria in 2011. It was organized by Facebook groups.
Subhanallah.
They were in Facebook groups, and they said, okay, meeting point is at this time, at this location. We are going to demonstrate, like the peaceful demonstrations I'm talking about. I'm talking about the times where guns and violence was not used yet. In 2011, early 2011, in Dar'a,
March, April, May.
Exactly. The people have connected or set meeting points through Facebook. So this is the importance of media.
Incredible.
And they've met up. They've rose against this oppressive regime, and even like the first martyrs. The news was shared on Facebook. and the news that the Assad regime is now using real life bullets against the peaceful demonstrators, it was shared on Facebook, it was shared through social media. So even the people from Homs and other cities and areas, they found out.
They were inspired by that.
We have to understand one thing in Syria. Many of the people, the normal awam, the normal layman, the people that was not a lorry driver, was not a businessman, they were not traveling from city to city. We have to understand that. There are people, they're 30 years old and he never left his city. It's not like in the West, like we just jump in the train or whatever and we just travel for 6 hours to, I don't know, another city, or we just jump into the plane and just go on some holiday or so. In Syria, it was not the case. In Syria, it was very strict, all this. And also the communities were very closed, you wouldn't leave your community and your city unless you had a really good reason for it, not just for fun.
Was this by government design? Was this a way to sort of keep communities insular and disconnected and sort of almost divide and conquer in a way? Is that what you think?
Of course, because this is how they controlled in the 80s, the first revolution attempt by the Ikhwan Muslimin in Hama. This is how they've controlled it. They just closed off the city, and they just went for everyone that had just the idea to stand up and raise up against the regime. And they just slaughtered Hama. They slaughtered more than 60,000 people in a few days.
Allahu Akbar.
The
number always varies when it comes to Hama 1984. I mean, I've heard 20,000, 30,000, but you're saying it really is as high as 60,000, subhanAllah.
Yeah, this is what the people from Hama say to me, and this is what the people from Hama told me.
Akbar.
The people who have lived in those times, or even sons of victims, sons of people who have been slaughtered in this criminal massacre in Hama. So this is how they've controlled it, because people were not connected. Like people in Homs and in other areas, they just found out weeks after that something like this happened in Hama. So this was like by design, like you've asked, this was by design. So if it was not for Facebook, if it was not for media, the Syrian people wouldn't have been connected so well, and wouldn't call for demonstrations in all of the cities and all of the governorates in Syria. And this is how they rose. Like, the people in North, how did they know that Hamza al-Khatib, the little boy, was tortured and killed, and his body was thrown in front of his house of his parents? The people found out through Facebook, through media, and this has sparked a big fire. Hamza al-Khatib's body has sparked a big fire in the Syrian people's eyes, and they say this is enough.
A 12-year-old child who ignited a revolution. What an incredible story, isn't it? Wallahi.
Wallahi, I went to the school. In Dara after the liberation. I went to the school that they have painted. They have spray painted on the wall the first time, Hamza al-Khatib and his friends. And it was a special moment. And now there is a joke amongst the Syrians, just to prep up our atmosphere here. There is a joke amongst the Syrians that they say, be careful, man, don't give no spray bottles to the Dara people, not that they start another revolution,
MashaAllah, what a people they are. So incredible, MashaAllah. Yani, the role of media and your work, people like you in the Syrian Revolution, it is real, and it was quite incredible, isn't it? So amazing to hear that. I mean, we always felt that. We saw, from the outside, that these citizen journalists, these people who are sort of broadcasting what's going on, they seem to have such an important role in what is happening. And I think everything that you've said just sort of confirms that, so incredible. So tell us then, okay, so it's sort of 2014 now, I'm guessing it's 2015 now. And let's talk about the times where we're moving towards the revolution, I guess, losing momentum, if we want to call it that. You've got ISIS doing what ISIS is doing. And eventually we come to Aleppo 2016, which is a very dark time for the revolution, isn't it? So let's talk a little bit about that. How did things get to that point in terms of the geopolitics, in your view? And how do you sort of remember that time?
I mean, I remember very, very well as I was besieged in Aleppo. I was inside the besiegement of Aleppo. At that time, it was actually a good moment for the revolution because 2014-15, the revolution had lost a lot of land to ISIS. Before ISIS had come from Iraq into Syria,
Yes.
the revolutionary factions, they were controlling 70% of land of Syria at that time. At that time, PKK didn't have much control in the east of Syria, only small towns and areas. The Assad regime had lost a lot of areas also, because they were not fortified. They were not expecting for the people to run up on the checkpoints and take the weapons and the guns of the regime soldiers and start now to fight back. Actually, so they have collapsed kind of in 2012-13. They've collapsed. And they had to pull back from many areas and wanted just to hold on to Aleppo city, and Damascus. Damascus was the center for them, the heart for them, to control. So after this momentum, the revolutionary factions had lost it when ISIS came in, like I said, because the revolutionary factions, they were like, our fight is against the Assad regime. We don't want to fight Islamic movements. We don't want to fight Muslims as they have believed at that time, because ISIS didn't show its true identity and face yet at that time. So they have pulled out from many areas, like I said, from the northeast of Syria. And this was like a time of fitna and pain for the Muslims, and that they that a fitna like this is happening between Muslims. So the Aleppo battle, when the Aleppo battle started, this was actually kind of the first time again for Muslims to take land again, for the revolutionary factions to take land and control again over new areas. Like as an example, just before the siege of Aleppo, in 2015, a big city like Jisr Shughur was liberated. Idlib city was liberated actually in 2015 also. So it was a good momentum for the revolutionary factions at that time. This is also when they were going now towards Aleppo. Okay, let's go towards Aleppo now. This is when Russia got involved also in 2015. Russia said, okay, not Russia said, actually Iranian Qasem Soleimani went from Syria to meet Putin in Moscow to convince him to come into Syria to help to help Syria and Iran against the revolutionary factions.
So it was really an Iranian overture towards their Russian allies to say, we're in trouble over here, come help us.
Of course, so much to the axis of resistance. The axis of resistance is against Muslims.
Well, there's a lot to talk about there. It's an entire episode on its own, my dear brother. So hold that thought. Don't go into too much detail, but tell us just enough that we understand what was going on. So yes, so Qasem Soleimani goes to Russia and gets Russia involved.
Yes, this is when Russia gets involved the first time in 2015 after the Mujahideen take control over Idlib and Jisr Shughur, and as also they are now walking towards the mountains of Latakia, because they have controlled now Jisr Shughur. Jisr Shughur lays in a plain, in a valley, which is also important because the valley leads to North Hama and also to north east of Latakia. So the Mujahideen were continuing to advance. This is when Russia got involved also, and this was the first time Russian planes hit Syria also at that time. And this is when the Mujahideen now redirected towards Aleppo, because there was also in Aleppo there was a struggle because Russia got involved. Iran and Russia tried to control Aleppo now, and it got besieged. This was the first siege. Aleppo was besieged twice in that time, in that 1 year. So the first siege happened.
So we're talking, the first siege happens within the calendar year 2016 as well. The bombing did not start, you're saying, until 2016. Is that correct?
The bombing started in 2015.
Yes, so late 2015, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, yes. The Russians, with Iranian support, they tried to now push out the revolutionary factions from inside the city of Aleppo, because there was revolutionary factions who was controlling the western parts, neighborhoods
Yes.
of the city at that time. And now they wanted to push them back from there, from outside of Aleppo, with Russian aerial support and also Iranian support.
Yes.
At that time, the Assad regime was gone. The Assad regime was
Yes.
fallen,
Indeed it
was crushed by the Mujahideen in 2015. This is when Russia and Iran jumped into
Akhi,
the lifeline.
sorry to interrupt, but I mean, I even remember as early as 2012, 13, subhanAllah, that the factions were ready to march on Damascus. And my understanding is, and I know this is a segue, we'll come back to what you were saying, but if it was not for some of the regional backers of some of the factions who controlled the weapons and the flow of funds and so forth, that they were not happy for Damascus to fall at that time. So the saying goes that Damascus would have fallen, that the regime was so in trouble that if it was not for the fact that certain factions had been pulled back, that Damascus would have fallen. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, 100%. There was many situations like that, unfortunately, many situations like that. Even when I came new in 2014, the revolutionary factions were controlling Kassab, which was the lifeline to the sea. This was the first area the Mujahideen ever controlled, a line to the sea, right on the border of Turkey. Also, this is when, like you said, regional powers have called for the revolutionary factions to pull out from those areas. And this is when the advancement stopped towards Latakia. Maybe at that time, if the advancement had continued, the Mujahideen, maybe in just a few months time span, would have controlled the whole governorate of Latakia at that time. But this is how war is, akhi, It's not always how you think it is.
Yes. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the bombing happens. So coming back to Aleppo, then 2015, the first bombing happens, first siege happens, and of course, one of the great achievements of the Mujahideen was, of course, the victory that they secured in Aleppo, which was celebrated widely in the Ummah at the time. It was a great moment when most of Aleppo was liberated, not all of it, because the regime continued to hold certain parts of it. And then the big siege happened towards the end of 2016, when the Russians completely got involved. I think Hezbollah also got involved very, very heavily. It was already involved by that time, but their forces pushed north towards Aleppo, and they were very heavily involved in the fighting. Tell us about that a little bit, because those were really the tough days. And it was after that I think, everyone, and I as well, but correct me if I'm wrong, we see the revolution and its momentum as being pre-Aleppo, post-Aleppo, right? Everything before Aleppo was towards sort of victory and sort of taking of land, but that was a real setback. Talk to us about the months leading into the siege, the months of the siege, and what happened immediately after, the revolution was defeated in Aleppo, if we can put it that way.
Yes, like I said, it was the first siege of Aleppo when it happened. It was besieged. This is when the revolutionary factions decided to break the siege of Aleppo. They were first besieged for 3 months, the people of Aleppo, with some of the revolutionary factions inside the city besieged. And there was a very fierce battle, which took place for weeks to break the siege of Aleppo. So the Mujahideen have managed to break the siege of Aleppo in like the summer of 2016. I remember it was like late August, early September, I think, if I'm not wrong, at that time. And they break the siege at that time. And of course, me and my colleagues, we thought we need to go report from inside Aleppo, as these people were besieged. As we were reporting on the front lines and on the battle anyway at that point. And we entered inside the city to get some interviews from the people, of their experience, of what they've lived and gone through, And this is when the second siege happened. We were inside.
So you got caught up in the siege. You were actually part of the people that were besieged.
Yes, of course. I was besieged in the second siege for 4.5 months, alhamdulillah. We were inside. We were inside, and we just got the news in the evening while we were expecting for the Mujahideen to advance and to continue the advancement and try to take over the whole city of Aleppo. We just were hearing the Russian planes hitting so fiercely the whole day and night. And then in the night, I remember it was like just right after Maghrib, I think, as the sun was just setting, and it was just the sky was still a little bit red, dark red, and we got the news that the Russians have put the siege back on Aleppo. And so we were looking at each other and we're saying like, oh, does that mean we are besieged now also? And alhamdulillah, we got caught up with a t-shirt and summer clothes, and we came out with winter jackets bought from second-hand shops, alhamdulillah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And so what happened? Yani, I remember very vividly, because we were quite involved in the Sydney Muslim community when the apex of the siege happened. And just to talk about in terms of months, because obviously the months are reversed here. And as I remember very clearly, it was December 2016. It was summer, middle of summer here. It was very hot. And it was the opposite in Aleppo, because we were seeing all the videos of the cold and the bitter cold, because it gets very cold in Aleppo. It's in the north part of Syria.
Yes.
And it was very, very cold. It was a vicious winter. And people were dying because they were besieged. They had no food. There were shortages of food and so forth. It was a very vicious time. Tell us about that. And then tell us about what happened at the end of the siege. Like, how did the siege end? There was an agreement between the rebels and the Mujahideen and the government to let people leave, and for the government to take control of the city. What happened there exactly?
Yeah, I mean, the Mujahideen inside, they didn't have much military means to hold up the siege and to break the siege from inside. So the revolutionary factions from outside, they have tried to break the siege for months. They worked for months. The battles were ongoing for months. They didn't give up to break the siege. They decided, okay, even if we can't control Aleppo, let us at least break the siege open, like some kind of a few kilometers of a gap for the people to pull out of Aleppo, so they don't get caught up in this this conflict and having to give up and be under the control of the Assad regime, which will just slaughter and massacre them without doubt. So,
and by the way, how many people died in the battle for Aleppo in 2016? Like, what is it? What is speculated in terms of how many people were killed?
Probably somewhere around 10,000 people.
Subhanallah.
There was 250,000 people besieged in Aleppo with us when we were inside. And in the battles, probably, I'm not sure of the numbers, but probably somewhere around 10,000 people, because I've seen with my own eyes probably 1,000 people and their bodies being torn apart, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
how did it end? How did that situation end?
The situation ended again with the involvement of regional powers. There was again some of the regional powers. They have pulled some of the revolutionary factions away from the front lines, trying to break the siege. So the only Islamic movements, let's say, who were already weak and didn't have much regional power support, couldn't make up with this battle on their own. They needed.
By that, are we talking about the likes of Jabhat al-Nusra, Ahrar al-Sham? Are we talking about these sorts of battalions?
Yes, exactly. Jabhat al-Nusra and Ahrar al-Sham, and some smaller factions and groups were fighting. Were the only ones who to fight at that time. Even Ahrar al-Sham at that time, they got an order from a country from outside, which was supporting them, to pull back from there and to come and help them to fight ISIS in Al-Bab. If you remember, the Al-Bab started right when the Aleppo siege was ongoing.
And this was an interesting point that people used to make. ISIS conveniently always attacks the Mujahideen when they need to be fighting elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, this is the real identity of ISIS, unfortunately. They are khuwana, they are treacherous people. They are like a dagger in the back of this Muslim Ummah, unfortunately, which we really need to pull out and throw away, inshallah. And so the siege ended with an agreement between Russia, Iran, and Iran was not involved, between Russia, Qatar, and Turkey. basically, and Iran was very unhappy with it, and that's why the first time it failed. I remember the buses were waiting for 1 week, 10 days to leave. The green buses filled with civilians because Iran was unhappy with it. When the deal happened on the same day, Iran bombed the city of Aleppo, which was besieged with nothing than less of 5,000 rockets. This was the most horrible one night in Aleppo. I remember we've survived 3 times death because of the intense rocket strikes. Yes.
What was Iran's problem with the deal that had been struck between Russia, Qatar, Turkey in Aleppo? What did they want to see more blood flow? Did they think that it was caving into the demands of the position of the fighting factions? What was their problem? What more did they want to see? Did they want to see them crushed? Was that their opinion, that this revolution can be crushed once and for all in Aleppo?
Yes, there was two reasons for Iran. Of course, one was that they wanted to crush the revolution. They wanted to kill and slaughter as much as Muslims as they can, as this is the main goal in the whole life. And anyway, and the second thing was that if the deal is done without them, then they would not have much involvement and influence in Aleppo. And Aleppo and Damascus was the most important two centers for Iran. Which also after the siege of Aleppo and after they take control of Aleppo, you could see that even today you go to Aleppo and Damascus, you see that both populations there in those cities are the most corrupt populations because Iranian ideology was spread there. The offices of Muta was spread there. All kind of nonsense that they are pushing for, all these projects to break a society was established in Aleppo and Damascus by Iran. So these were the two reasons why they were unhappy with this deal. And after bombing for a few days, I think they got what they wanted of Russia, Qatar, and Turkey. And then the deal was done, and we all left Aleppo. We were all evacuated in a very, very, very cold day where it was snowing, I remember. I think it was the 22nd of December, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, late December 2016. And so, tell us a little bit about what happens then. So these green buses, these famous green buses that are still spoken about, tell us about these green buses.
Yeah, I mean, the green buses are just governmental buses. They are just green here. Syrian government used to use just the normal buses, but the city buses. They are just green here. I remember in Germany the buses are red, always red and yellow.
But it became a bit of a thing, Yani. Even when I was in Syria recently, the Mujahideen talked. The green buses were like a sign. At first, I think people were. I think when Homs was defeated, when the revolution in Homs was defeated or crushed initially by the government, they transported people out, and the Iranians transported people out towards the north using these green buses. So they became a bit of a symbol of the government imposing its will and taking people out of liberated areas once it had taken it back towards the north. Is that a thing historically? Was there a pattern to that?
I mean, yes, many areas which was evacuated with a deal, like Dar'a, Ghouta, Eastern Ghouta, Homs, Aleppo, many areas which was evacuated after deals were reached between the revolutionary factions and the Assad regime. They were always moved and evacuated in green buses, and they have started this. On their media, making jokes, we have sent you away with green buses,
exactly right. Exactly right.
After
the green buses are coming, I think they used to say, isn't it? The green buses will come and get you. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So it was a meaning of you have to leave your homes and your lands. This comes from raising against the government. This is what you get from it.
Is it also a thing that when they brought in people from Iran, from Afghanistan, when they brought in, factually speaking, it's correct, the Shia from those countries to repopulate parts of Syria, they were then also brought in by these green buses to repopulate these places where they were trying to change the demographic profile of the country?
Exactly. This was the what's it called? The marking point for demographic change. Exactly that is the word that the big topic of Iran's Shia Crescent project, which
Mm,
involves Syria also. This is what they have used, the green buses, to remove Sunni Muslims and to move in Shia non-Muslims.
subhanallah.
Allah.
So this happens. This happens in Aleppo. It's these days, and people are being moved out with these green buses. And then what? Then what? I mean, where did they go after the siege of Aleppo? And I guess talk to us about that firstly, and secondly, just talk to us about the feeling amongst the revolutionaries. How did people feel? How did people feel? I guess generally, in terms of what was the mood, and what was the feeling towards some of the regional powers who had done this, where there was a feeling that if we'd been left to fight on our own and do our thing, we would actually be victorious. But these regional powers sometimes have gotten in the way. Was that a feeling amongst the revolutionaries and the Mujahideen?
Yes, of course. Aleppo siege was the best blessing that happened for the Syrian Revolution, because even the Syrian people, not just the fighters, but even the people, the revolutionary people, also they've realized that we can't rely on no regional power. We can't rely on anyone except on Allah and on ourselves. So this is when they
Subhanallah.
after this, and also for all these places to be evacuated to Idlib and to the north of Syria was a big blessing, because they all came together now. They all regrouped, reorganized. Early 2017, HTS happened.
Yeah.
Many factions have come together and joined in, Islamic factions especially. They've joined and they become a big organization. Now they have changed.
But even before we get to that, and we will,
Yes.
tell me a little bit about what was the feeling on the ground amongst the brothers, amongst the families, amongst the children. Yani, this revolution has gone from knocking on the doors of Damascus until the regional powers started pulling their weapons and saying, no, it's not the right time. We will not accept for you to do this. And with Aleppo, the second great city of Syria, in the hands of the revolution, and then this happens. What was the feeling like? How did you feel? How did the brothers feel? Describe that a little bit, the human side of it. I'm interested in that, because these are the ups and downs that Allah tests us with, right? And
Yes,
I feel that,
yes.
Yani, for us anyway, and I'll be very, very honest with you, as activists in the West, as people in the West, and may Allah forgive us for this, but Aleppo was really a turning point in our activism for Syria, because we felt very, very despondent. We felt that this great revolution that had so much hope, that it has now, whether it's because of the betrayal of the regional powers, whether it's because of ISIS and its treachery, whether it's because of the days that Allah alternates in terms of who He gives power and ascendancy to, for whatever reason, this is now a big test. What has happened over here, and it's difficult to see the revolution immediately anyway being able to win. How did the brothers feel? How did the families, the hundreds of thousands of Muslims who were being displaced, how did they feel in that moment?
Yeah, of course, the people here felt the same despair like you felt it outside. Yani. It was a very hope-breaking moment, or months, let's say, or even years. But nobody thought about giving up. Nobody thought about giving up, but it was a very low for everyone, and where we had to face some of the realities, yani, that we didn't have faced before. And I think, like I said, it was a big blessing for the Syrian Revolution, because this is when they have started to produce their own rockets.
Yes.
This is when they have started to rely only on Allah and on themselves, and this is when they have started to.
And this is a huge, this is going to be a huge part of our next discussion, right? Which is what happens then. We, after the hope and people coming and fighting and doing media work and doing all the stuff that you were doing and the great hopes in the Ummah, and then the setback happens. We now see a retreat to this enclave of Idlib, and just factually, just tell us a little bit about Idlib before we get into inshallah, what we will dive into part 2, which is some of the themes of what the challenges were that were faced in Idlib. How did the revolutionaries regroup? What were the key turning points? What were the key things they did? What were some of the plans that were created, and the military plans, and the drones, and the strategization, and so forth, which is what we will inshallah dive into in the part 2. But tell us about that. Tell us about Idlib, the early days of Idlib, and what it felt like being forced to go into Idlib.
I mean, Idlib was, it was a good experience. Idlib, when we came there, when Idlib was liberated, nobody thought that Idlib is going to be the main base of the revolution. Nobody thought that. Nobody, even some of the people even were like criticizing the revolutionary factions of liberating Idlib. They were saying like, what does Idlib have? Idlib has nothing except olive trees. For what did you liberate Idlib?
This is despite the fact that Idlib has got quite a conservative Sunni population, isn't it? Like I know there's some Druze villages and some Alawi villages, but it's by and large a very safe Sunni sort of part of Syria, is it not?
Yes, of course, because Idlib also has a past of when Hafid al-Assad, the father of Bashar al-Assad, I think in the 80s, after the Hama incident or the massacre, when he was going now to save face, let's say, through Syria, through the cities of Syria, when he came to Idlib, the people in Idlib, they have thrown tomatoes at him. And this is why also he has redirected the M5 highway. He has cut off Idlib city from it. Before, it used to go through Idlib, the M5, which comes from Aleppo and goes down to Damascus. He has cut Idlib away after this incident that he was thrown with tomatoes at.
Hate to interrupt you. The big highway and motorway in Sydney is also called the M5. I have to tell you that.
Oh, okay. Maybe they got something connected with each other. So this is what happened. So the people of Idlib, like you said, they were known to be conservative Muslims, and they are very like a community that is very close with each other, and they are like inside, and they are like included. They are not excluded. Like, I don't know how to word.
No, I get you. Very close knit sort of community.
So yes, mashallah, they have welcomed the Mujahideen. They have welcomed the Muslims really well. The people of Idlib. Many of the foreigners who are married with Syrians are married with sisters from Idlib families. The people of Idlib, they were amazing to all the people, not just the foreigners. Also to the people of Syria from different cities, because we have to understand, in Syria it's crazy. I never saw that. I mean, we used to have that also in Germany, like I'm from Frankfurt, I'm from Berlin, I'm from whatnot, but it was never like this extreme. Syrians are before the revolution.
They even argue, I saw in Homs and Hama when I was there this year.
Exactly.
They argue about which is the best city, which is the best sweet, the best food, the best culture. It's a big deal over there.
Exactly. They have even nationality, not on their nation, but on their cities also. Like, Homs people are better than Hama people. No, Hama people are better. Yes. Like, it was a big thing. So for them to open their arms to the people of Dar'a, to the people of Ghouta, to the people of Deir az-Zor, of Raqqa, of all of Syria, of Homs also especially, who have come to Idlib, who have sought refuge in Idlib. The people of Idlib were very helpful. They have really welcomed them. They have really, opened their doors to them. And this created this strong brotherhood that was one of the main reasons why Allah gave this victory to these people.
Was that clear from the start? Or were there challenges at the start? So in 2017, the Aleppo, let's call it setback, tragedy, but setback happens. But of course, with hindsight, we see the great plan of Allah. So the Aleppo setback happens, and then in what sort of numbers are we talking about? Fighters and revolutionaries coming into Idlib? Are we talking a couple of thousands? Are we talking tens of thousands? Was it hundreds of thousands? How many people ended up coming into Idlib such that consolidation happened?
I mean, of course, it was not just fighters. It was their families. It was also civilians who didn't want to live under the control of the regime in those areas, leaving their homes and their shops and their lands and everything, coming to Idlib. It was hundreds of thousands. Idlib, the population of Idlib before the revolution was nothing over 1 million. When we were in 2017 living in Idlib, the population of Idlib was 4.5 million.
Wow. So it really became where the free Syrians went, in essence. Many of them who could leave their cities and the liberated parts were pushed out when Assad took control again. Idlib became the nerve center of what remained of the revolution.
Of course, Idlib was the heart of the revolution after 2016. Idlib turned into the heart of the revolution. Idlib turned into the base of the revolution. That's why here right now, everyone was saying, of course, in a way of like joke, but like after the liberation, they were saying like, oh, we should rename the capital of Syria Idlib, not Damascus anymore. Because Idlib was the base for everything. Idlib was a big experience also. The government, the Salvation government, which the brothers had established in 2017, the experience of governing Idlib and the 4.5 million people of the revolution, it gave experience to those brothers who are today controlling and running the new Syrian government. It was like a training ground for them, for 3-4 years. It was also a training ground for us, not just for them, because we were involved in also the process of what's it called, self-development. We understood how important it is to develop ourselves. I just want to give one example. I don't know if we have reached already the part 2, but this
we have reached the cusp of part 2. We have reached the cusp of part 2.
This will all come in part 2 also, which is very important. Which was the turning.
Yes. So you're telling us about some of the things that happened in Idlib in this time, which prepared what was to come for the future.
Yes, inshallah. I mean, we are going to speak about this in the second part, inshallah, more. But like just to give a general idea what it was about. The Idlib experience is like I'm giving it from myself, which was a big turning point, fikriyan, ideologically, if you can say so. I don't know if it's right.
Yes, no, that's great. Fikriyan, the thought process, the fikr, the ideology, the ideological side.
For me, the change for me, and which helped me a lot to see the things in a different way in my life, was, as an example, the self-development courses that the brothers were offering here. Which was I went into a self-development course for 3 months. The title of the development course was called Futuhat al-Islam, and for 3 months we were trained. It was an amazing experience, wallahi akhi. It was an amazing experience for 3 months. There were two different courses that have changed my life, have changed the view of my life, how I view things. One was Futuhat al-Islam, which I will talk a little bit about it, which is
and for our brothers and sisters, Futuhat al-Islam, the openings of Islam, the great conquests, the great victories, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. So the brother who gave us this course has a PhD in Islamic history and also in political science. So he's got 2 PhDs in these 2 fields. Allahumma barak. He's an amazing brother, mashallah. And he basically the course was about how, from the day of the Prophet ﷺ until the days of the Sahabas and the Tabi'in, Atba Tabi'in, until the righteous people, until like the Umayyin, the Abbasiyin, and Seljukiyin, all of the time, including Salah ad-Din Ayyubi, and up until today, up until the fall of the Ottoman Empire, up until the fall of the last caliphate that the Muslims have seen. He basically gave us a course explaining military tactics, explaining political tactics, how they were politically developed, how they were taking political decisions, and the way of establishment of the government, how the governments were established, because some of those governments were caliphate systems, some of those governments were more modern systems, some of those governments were sultanate systems, like the Ottoman Empire was all sultan systems. Like basically we have studied all the systems, the political systems, how it was established, if they had parliaments, if they had no parliaments, all these things, these details, and also the difficulties that and the challenges that they faced. Like as an example, like internal fights. As an example, the fights with the Fatimids, the fights with of Sultan Salim against
the challenges internally. Yes. Yep.
Exactly. So when we went through all this course, I thought, like, man, the fitan that we've seen is nothing in comparison to the fitan that our forefathers have seen. Like, and we were complaining about.
Incredible. It gives you a sense of like the challenges you have to surmount to get the great victories.
Exactly, and also it gives you an understanding, because there were many things, many things up until today that I'm having inner struggle with. Is like some of the decisions that our brothers today taken as a government, and I'm thinking, like, man, really, did you really have to do this decision, man? Like, I understand policy and diplomacy, but But
yes.
these studies, it really helped me to understand, and it really helped me to give me husn dhan with my brothers, with the leadership, and it also gave me the understanding of life is not a bubble, man. Life is not a bubble. It's not like a fantasy world. Caliphate, yeah, wow, Allahu Akbar, we all want that, but it's not easy as that, bro. It's not easy as that, and also like.
Well, okay. That's a fascinating point, and one I'd love to sort of discuss in part 2. I mean, but it really seems like this course, or this, the learnings and the education piece that happened in Idlib really set things up, I guess, for what was to come. Like, that would be your overall reflection, isn't it, in terms of what was done there?
Exactly. That's what, inshallah, we're going to discuss in the second part, is that the development, the reorganization, the development, be it ideologically, be it in terms of military tactics, be it in also military developments, also how they have turned their military system from a guerrilla warfare into a proper army system, where they have established their different, alwiya,
battalions and groupings and
exactly, battalions and command the systems, and they have opened a military academy where they have trained people to become actual commanders, and they have also given like the different the levels of the ranks.
The ranks in the armies. Yeah.
So this was one of the development course. The second development course that has changed my life was, I've taken dozens of courses of the Sirah of the Prophet ﷺ, the biography, the life of the Prophet ﷺ. But this specific one was a very special one, because this one was based or explained in a political military science of view, like how the Prophet ﷺ did policy, did diplomacy, did military strategy and tactics, which gave you a different view of the Prophet ﷺ, which we all know that he was a smart man, ﷺ, and of course that he was guided by Allah Azza wa Jal, and that nothing that he said and did was except that Allah Azza wa Jal yuha alayhi, that revealed upon him. But when you study his life, ﷺ, from the way of his military tactics and his policy, and also not just him, but his companions like Khalid ibn Walid, like Umar radiallahu anh, and Abu Bakr, radiallahu anh, all their tactics, you understand many things in a very deeper way, and you view many things in a very deeper way. Life is not black and white, man. There's many gray zones, which you need this information and this ilm, and of course the guidance of Allah Azza wa Jal, to go through all these challenges in the most best way, So these two things were like the turning point.
Yeah, incredible. And we look forward very much to diving into some of that in the next episode. But so we are in Idlib. That's where we are. We have come to Idlib after the years of fighting and struggle, and that is inshallah where we'll pick up the next episode and talk about the road to victory for the Syrian Revolution and what that looked like. Brother Abdussamad, before we finish up, tell us where we can catch you online, inshallah. I'm sure many of the brothers and sisters listening probably want to see where your work rests. So what do you do online and where can they catch you, inshallah?
Normally, I have my own podcast also, but since after the liberation, unfortunately, I got busy with many work and projects on the ground, so I've kind of lacked back in that, unfortunately. But inshallah, I'm looking forward to continue my project, which is called the New Middle East Podcast. It has a website, thenewmiddleeast.com. Also, it's available on YouTube, the New Middle East Podcast. Of course, they can also watch some of the recent episodes. I have also 2 or 3 even Australian brothers from Australia and who are living in Syria since more than a decade. Also, they share their experiences also with us in those episodes. Maybe they can look into that. So
was Brother Abu Maryam on your podcast at all? Was he one of the ones?
Yes, of course. He was my first episode. He was my first episode.
Fascinating. Yeah, that's one for the Australian folks listening to check out for sure.
Yes, this was like 2 years ago, and Abu Maryam, mashallah, tabarakallah, yani we've learned a lot of him, and he's mashallah, tabarakallah, may Allah preserve him, a very wise man, and he does a lot of good work on the ground, and he's an important person, yani for us all, Allahumma barak. So Australia should be proud that they have produced men like him. Alhamdulillah. So yeah, maybe they can look into that.
Podcast. We'll put a link in the description, inshallah. Let brothers and sisters check it out.
Inshallah. And also my personal pages, which I'm doing like news from on the ground, which is Abdussamed Dagul, just as my name is written there. They can find me on Twitter, especially on Twitter. I'm very active, and also on Instagram. So yeah, inshallah.
Wonderful. And some members of our team were following you very closely in the days of the liberation of Damascus, and one brother in particular, he made a point that to let you know that we're proud of you and the work that you did in those days. You were the first insight into the English-speaking audience, or to the English-speaking audience on X and on Twitter of the liberation of Damascus. So may Allah reward you. A wonderful scene. I'm sure we will use that iconic video of yours walking into the Umayyad Mosque in some of our promotional material, if you don't mind.
Yes, of course. No problem.
Absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Jazakallah khair, my dear brother. It's been fascinating. Wonderful insights. And we can't wait to do part 2 very, very soon, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan for giving us the platform.
Absolute pleasure. Barakallah feekum. Okay, brothers and sisters, remember to like, subscribe, and follow, and to look out for the second part of this podcast, which will be coming out very soon, which will be all about the days of Idlib and the road to victory, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Barakallah feekum for joining us, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.